Good morning, everybody.
Oh.
Oh, can't see you, Martin.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Can
you.
hear you. Okay, Martin's there.
How
There
about
he
that?
is.
I don't know
There you
why it
go.
does that, but it did that.
That's okay. Technology. It's a crazy thing. So,
Yes.
so good morning. This is the Going On Daily, the morning podcast, Tuesday, April 22nd. 22nd. We are here. This is
We are here.
now that we could see Martin. That's Martin up there on the top, and that's Lily up there on the left. So, how you guys doing today? Good.
Hey, it's good morning. Yes. Yes, it
Yeah.
feels like Monday because we were away for the Easter holiday visiting our daughter, and we were traveling yesterday. Today feels like Monday, but clearly it is not.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And you guys are good. I just want to quickly go ahead and give you guys where you can find us. And we have it up here. This is the graphic. Woo, I'm going to point to everything today
Yeah. Okay.
because that's fun.
Yeah.
So we are on
Yes.
Facebook
Can
at
I do that?
sorry, it's RI Broadcasting. So RI, the letters right there. And we are also on YouTube at Rhode Island Broadcasting, but you've got to spell it all the way out. That's on the top there. And then we've also got Twitch, RI_ broadcasting. And that's there underneath the Facebook logo. And then we're also on Patreon at RI Broadcasting, all one word. And that's where all these swag is, I hear. This is where the store is. That's where all the good stuff is. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And we'll get started. So, yeah, Lily, how are you doing? Good? Everything's right? Good Easter?
I'm all right. I mean, Easter weekend, did that. Family time, friend time. I mean, it's a great time. How was your weekend?
Mine was good. Mine was busy. It was just busy. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Wish I had an extra day
Yeah, it would always be nice to have
before
an
getting
extra
back
day.
to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see Becky's with us. Good morning, Becky. So, and who else is with us?
Hi, Becky.
I have a little screen over. Yeah, we got Ron there. We got everybody there. Oh, so let me start by we have some topics, and I have them listed out to make sure that we follow. The only thing is, I'm not sure who's doing what topic. So let me just be sure. I think Martin is the one starting us off with something called the Sammys Part 3.
The Sammys. Yes. Do either of you know about the Sammys?
No, I'm intrigued though.
Yeah,
What's the same?
I up until 3 weeks ago, I did not know about the Sammys either. That Sammys is the nickname for the Samuel J. Heyman Service to America medals, and this award started, I think, in 2002. Because it was decided that the federal government in the United States does incredible things, but nobody knows about them. Basically, if they're doing good things, politicians tend to take credit for the good things instead of the government workers who are making them happen. And if the government does bad things, then the politicians blame them. Consequently, the PR for the federal government was bad. And so some people got to thinking, why don't we start to highlight some of the not just good, but extraordinary things people are doing? And so the Samuel J. Heyman Awards began. And what I've been doing is for the past couple of weeks is reading out some of the 2024 winners and to tell everyone what they've been up to. And it's been kind of exciting and interesting and impressive. And I have a couple of more for us today. They're taking nominations now for the 2025 awards. I'm hoping that this continues. One never knows what's going to happen with our federal government, but at least we have some people from 2024 who will give a little shout out and share what impressive things they've done. Okay.
Very cool.
All right.
Great. All right. And so the Sammys is the nickname, sort of like the way we have nicknames for all the other sort of media awards, like the Academy Awards become the Oscars, the Gramophone Awards, the Grammys, the Antoinette Berry Awards, the Tonys. Now these are the Sammys. Okay, so there last year, Yan Ping, Jody Chen, and J.D. Evans were given an award because they revolutionized bee disease diagnosis and treatment, and they advanced cutting edge technology to detect virus pathogens and discovered new medicines to promote bee health and colony collapse. Now, what could be more important than that, given what's happening to the bee community, how we need them to continue to pollinate so we can
I
enjoy
agree.
food? And pretty impressive work that's available not just to us, but to the world. So, tip of the hat for that. Also, Pete Guria, Steve Kalanog, and Tara Fitzgerald and the Maui Wildfire Emergency Response Team were given an award in 2024 because in 2023 they directed more than 300 EPA personnel to retrieve tons of hazardous materials from the Maui wildfires. And they did this while respecting local cultural norms and traditions, and most importantly, maybe setting standards for the federal response teams that would come in after them. So shout out to them for that good work. And the last one I'm going to mention today is shout out to Mark Levithan and Long Fan and the Tornado Wind team. They created the first tornado-resistant building codes. This research will save lives and protect critical facilities like schools, hospitals, and emergency centers. And again, this is for the benefit. These codes are for the benefit for us, but it's now for humanity as well. So these are just 3 ways federal government, our tax dollars, are going to projects that are doing things to protect
So what's
us
that last
and
thing?
help
Do you
us.
know if it's it sort of like an like a plan to evacuate, or is it just sort of like a creating
No, it's just for what they
architecture?
did, just creating the building code, the building. So as
Oh,
buildings
nice.
are being rebuilt from disaster or going forward, if you're in a known tornado zone, now we have building codes based on data and engineering that they've learned from past tornado
Oh, wow.
incidents, and taking what we've learned, putting that forward, next generation stuff.
Very cool.
It's like now we're building earthquake buildings that can really withstand, knowing what's happening
Definitely.
physically. We use engineering to our advantage, and we have building codes so that we can withstand
I like it.
these terrible things. Yeah.
Question: Who
Very cool.
is
Yeah.
Sammy?
Oh, Samuel J. Heyman? That is a great question. And I think I knew 3 weeks ago
Okay.
when they came on to do it. But
Why?
I'll go and do. But Samuel J. Heyman, I'm going to guess.
Okay,
The
let's
memory trouble
guess.
was,
That's
but
actually
I'm
a
guessing
little
he
more
Since
was a
Becky loves
spicy.
the
federal
Sammys,
worker.
maybe Becky
And
can
Okay.
tell us.
yeah,
But anyway,
yeah,
we'll look
yeah,
it up. Very cool
Yeah.
stuff to research,
yeah,
right? All
yeah.
right, so now we're gonna
Mhm.
go to Lily, and she's gonna tell us the chopsticks.
Oh, well, yeah. So I had a couple things. So I
Okay.
love to cook. I don't know. Do you guys like to cook? I
Love to cook.
I love to cook. I will never be a chef, but I had to come up with some topics, and I was thinking, you know what is the hardest things to cook, the hardest dishes to cook? And I come to find out now there's a list. There's 10. But
Okay.
I figured just to give us 5, and then I'm going to give you guys technically the hardest, like by
Okay.
touch. So consomme is actually really hard. The clear soup. I don't know if you've ever had consomme. Consomme is actually really hard to make. It's just a clear soup. It has meat, tomato, egg whites, and stock, and it's slowly simmered to bring impurities to the surface for skimming. That is one of the hardest things. Beef Wellington is also hard to make. And then you guys remember, have you ever heard of Turk Dunkin'? It's
Yes, I think I
it's
have.
yeah, so Turk Dunkin'
Oh,
is
turducken.
Turducken. Yeah, I might be saying
Turducken.
these
Okay.
things
I
wrong.
thought you said Turk Duckin, and I'm like, boy,
Turducken,
that
yeah.
sounds familiar. What did he do? What did Turk do? All right, Turducken. Yeah.
So it's a whole turkey, then it's stuffed with the duck, and then in the duck, it's stuck with chicken.
Mm-hmm.
That's gross. To me, that's gross. I never like too much mixture of protein. Like even when
Yeah.
I'm having like a sandwich, I'm like, oh, do I want pastrami with salami? I don't know. To me, that's weird.
Too much of a good thing, right?
Yeah, probably.
You
Too
know
much
where I'm
for my
like that with?
palate. Yeah,
Yeah, I love prosciutto. In fact, I have a podcast
prosciutto's
called I
good.
Wish I Were a Prosciutto. But a lot of times in big Italian sandwiches, they'll have 5 things in it, including prosciutto. And I'll typically say, keep the prosciutto out. And they're like, why? Don't you like it? No, I love it, but it's
Yeah.
competing with all those
true.
other
With
flavors,
the
and it
other
doesn't, it gets
flavors.
forgotten. If I'm going to have the prosciutto, just
Uh-huh.
give it a plain or maybe with a little mozzarella, but I don't need it competing with the salami and the soppressata and the capicola. So it's sort of like what you're saying, you
Okay.
use things judiciously. Some things blend well, but for me, you're wasting the prosciutto if you're mixing with all the other stuff.
So you're Italian, correct?
Yeah,
I mean, I can see
guilty.
your last name. So prosciutto, you guys just eat that by itself, correct? So
Yeah,
I've been
yes.
eating it right.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
there's no, yeah, no,
Because every
no.
time I see
Look,
prosciutto, I just eat
Yeah.
it by itself. I didn't know people mix that with other stuff.
it mixes well, maybe with something like some mozzarella,
Yes.
a little arugula, but too much, you lose it. By the way, there's no wrong way. Look, people love it. I'm not here to say don't do it. I'm just saying for me, I'm not. It's expensive too, but an imported prosciutto di Panama, very expensive. And if I'm spending that kind of money, I want to savor that. I don't need to blend it with the delicious but less expensive, not as fine cuts of meat. So prosciutto by itself is
It's
just fine.
perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
So the turkey, okay, turkey, and then you got the chicken, and then you got the duck. That's just weird to me. So obviously that is really hard to make. Number 3, the béarnaise sauce. It's a tarragon flavored French sauce, clarified butters, blah blah blah. That seems to be really hard to make. I have never made it. Have you guys ever made that? Probably will never make that. But the interesting to me was Bake Alaska was on this list. Bake Alaska, counterintuitive, ice cream coated with a sponge, topped with a delicate meringue, and then that's baked. And then 5 is croissants.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, a lot of this was just liquids and pastries. Oh, macaroons are actually really hard to make. And beef
heard about
Wellington, I've already said that, which I've never made. The show House Kitchen with Chef Ramsay.
No.
Yeah, I
Not
think
enough.
I want to make. I think
Once
I
in a
want to
while.
make. I think I want to make beef Wellington one time, but after this, I don't know if it's
Okay.
if I'll be able to do that. But that is not the last thing I want to say about this. So I wanted to know about what was the hardest dish to make. And apparently it took that literally. So back in China, there is a dish, and it's going to be really hard for me to say, and it's made out of rocks. And back in the day when there were men on the boats and they had nothing to make, they would get their condiments, so basically peppers and oils, and they would use rocks to make some sort of a
I've heard of
dish.
stone soup.
And this was years ago.
I was going to say stone soup. This is
called rocks. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's not stone soup, but it's basically rocks mixed with peppers and oil, and you could buy them in Hong Kong or on the street like a street food, and they put it into a box and you just suck the rocks. That's all you do. To me, that I thought that was fascinating, that people are just out there sucking the rocks. And some people, when they are visiting those countries, they say, hey, do you want the rocks back? And you just keep those as souvenirs. But yeah, it was for the sailors when there was scarcity, they didn't have any food. They would go mix their condiments in this rocks, and they would just suck that with all the flavors and, condiments or spices or anything like that.
I think the phrase "suck rocks" came from that.
Yeah.
Go suck rocks.
So that's my little list right there.
Oh, wow.
It tells you a couple things. One, I guess there's minerals on the rocks, and I know elephants eat clay a lot because they can digest it, but there's minerals in that. So if there's scarcity, as you say, and the sailors, they need something, they get the minerals. But I think the bigger takeaway is, if you have a good olive oil,
yeah, it has to be a specific olive oil,
maybe some garlic or pepper or whatever, you can make anything.
So I was looking to see what kind of rocks. Apparently there are no rocks. It doesn't matter what kind of rocks, but the ones in these pictures are like the flat rocks that you use when you throw in the river, the ones, the flatter the better. So apparently those are the ones that would be good for this thing, but no specifications on what kind of rocks, guys. So that's all I got.
Because there's so many out there that you could
There are so many
so you
out
don't have
there.
to like even get into mushroom picking, and there's like specific mushrooms you have to pick, and
Yeah.
whatever seasons. And I don't know if slate
As
is a good
long
idea,
as
Ron. But yeah, maybe. I don't know what's.
I see an international cookbook taking, we'll look at Mediterranean rocks for Mediterranean recipes and South American rocks.
Like you have to have them shipped in to do a
Mexican.
certain meal or something like that. But it's you
Just
can
pick
see
them off
that
the
happening with
ground.
other meals. Yes, there you go. Just wash them off.
People make do. And, in the Italian cuisine, so much food that's now, considered high-end Italian food or fancy food, a lot of it came from communities where this was the sustenance of the most impoverished. Polenta comes to mind, just cornmeal. And they made it all the time, but they made it good. And now when there's abundance for most people, not everyone, but for most, now that dish is transformed into something of luxury.
Polenta's of luxury to me.
People, but people will use what they have, and if you're at sea and you need minerals, and you can get something from the
story
rocks.
for another time. But
there's a terrible thing about that, but the inventiveness of it, the ingenuity is, and the tribute to the human spirit.
And Ron said diamonds, and I agree that over the time you can create like a buzz around an object that's not completely worthless, but that most people don't consider high end or really expensive. And story for another time. Lobster was at one time just seen to be really
lobster,
kind of a low class meal for people who didn't have enough food.
Or shrimp. It's supposed to be like the cockroach of the ocean or something like that.
And now it's like a lobster meal is like ridiculous money because at some point they put a marketing scheme together and made lobster a different thing. So anyway,
that's
so we're not frying any cats here. I know Ron's saying we're frying cats, but we're not. I don't know whose mic that is because I'm not catching it in time.
I don't have anything.
I don't think so either, but yeah, it's all marketing, definitely. But speaking of technology, I'm going to take a quick story here about polite AI. Not knowing if anybody knows what that means, but I'll tell you in a minute. If you say please and thank you to ChatGPT, for those of you who use it, you're not alone because I guess most people have whatever their social pleasantries are for their construct wherever they live. But it might be costing OpenAI, the company, more than you would expect. So the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, he's saying that polite users add to electricity costs. With extra responses leading to tens of millions of dollars in use of power for extra words, which is funny. I thought this was interesting. So each friendly reply you get from them is powered by like this large energy hungry data center, right? And these centers create tons of electricity. They use a lot. They don't create. They use a lot of electricity, not just for computing, but for cooling machines and things like that. Which if you're into IT, you kind of know all this, but. There's a lot of stuff going on in the back end, but he seems to think it's worth it anyway. I'm not sure if we need his blessing on that, but he seems to think it's worth it anyway. He believes natural human-like conversations are part of what makes AI valuable. I personally find it a little creepy, but that's just me. Even if it means that he has to pay or there's more higher energy bills for whoever pays that bill. So he's like, so go ahead, be polite. And it's tens of millions of dollars well spent for Sam Altman as far as he's concerned. So yeah, I guess when you think about where not OpenAI itself, there's other different types of chat engines and things like that. If you think about how many of those things are out there and how many people are starting to incorporate them, it probably does add up. Like I thought that was an interesting fact that so much electricity is being used on this thing responding to you by saying you're welcome or whatever it is that it says. So I just found that kind of cool as a fun fact as far as like, how much really goes into what you just use. A lot of people pull up stuff on their phone and they just use stuff every day. And, you don't really think of what goes on behind it. So
So how is it
And
costing
yes,
it so much money? I'm sorry. How is it costing just by being nicer?
I think what he's trying to say is that the extra pleasantry on top of the conversation, instead of just saying, "Hey, listen, Chat GPT, tell me the
Uh-huh.
5 blah blah blah, give me the bullet points." If you just talk to it like it's a person, which a lot of people are starting to do,
Uh-huh.
there's all this extra work. Just probably just when you look at the energy that it takes for those couple of extra minutes,
That's it.
for it to
Okay.
be, coming up with whatever it needs to respond, it would it makes more sense if you use Alexa or Siri. I'm sorry if everybody has a phone or an Alexa because they're probably going to light up at this point. But if you use any of those things, it
Quiet.
that also takes energy because it pulls from wherever its source is and its API is to get all of its information and bring it back to you to know what the polite response is for wherever you are or whatever you're saying. It does take a little extra energy. It makes sense. Um, Becky had said, I don't use ChatGPT, but I occasionally use Bixby, which is a Samsung counterpart of Siri. And she always says thank you because, when when these things become sentient, when Skynet kicks in, I guess, she wants to be spared from the revolution. And it
There
makes
we go.
sense.
No, that's
Yeah.
wise. That's wise, Becky. I had a student who was she was a visiting student from China, and this was high school, and lovely person. I won't
Mhm.
say her name but she was one of the happiest people I'd met, dedicated, hardworking, and I really admired her demeanor, her work ethic, all those
Mhm.
things, and we got along well enough. And I said, that's good because maybe when China takes over the world, like
Yeah.
not she'll be, and she's running it because she's smart enough. She'll remember me and spare me and my family, not put me and my family in the gulags. Maybe make me minister of culture or
Yeah. I
something.
mean,
But so it's good, Becky, to play the
and then
defensive game to our future
Becky mentioned
overlords.
that her friends use ChatGPT like a counselor, and uh, I had a couple of conversations with some friends of mine recently about this because I work in IT all day,
Uh-huh.
and this is what we were saying. It's like it's starting to become a counselor for people, something where somebody opens up
Mm,
ChatGPT, and just talks to
right.
it like a person, and so I'm getting a little creeped out by it because it's starting to learn how to just use what we would call human voice, where it just talks back like you
Mm.
don't. It's just like a human being talking back to you. There are a lot of people. I don't know if it's good or bad, because I feel like there are a lot of people out there that just need something and can't afford counseling. But I don't know that AI is the right answer for that, and
I
the
mean,
fact that it
AI
can talk
is
to
an
us like that is like,
artificial I'm sorry, it's
yeah,
an artificial intelligence. Like it is learning from us. So it
right,
makes sense. So if we are
Right.
being polite to it and it is costing a little bit more money, then that's great. Then we're
right.
actually growing and teaching AI to be a little bit more polite. I mean, it is in
I
all
agree, but
aspects,
I
it
also
is
want
like
to know.
Terminator.
Yeah, I,
Terminator's
I also would
happening.
like
Mm.
some idea for people that aren't looking to. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for people. I want it to be able to understand that we need to recognize that's what it is. I think at some point people should start losing track of that, and I don't want that to become a mix up of who are we dealing with here. I just feel like there should be
I
something.
feel
It
Right.
should
like that's
identify
definitely
itself.
what's gonna happen, especially with the fact that we are so divided and always on our phones, and we are
Right,
already having problems of able to talk to one another, that
right.
AI is gonna be an alternative to a human being, and
So
we
yeah,
are gonna start having these close connections with AI. I mean, I
right,
just saw recently that they have a model, like a female model AI that you could buy in, I know it's on the other side of the country for like $300,000, other side of the world, or $400,000, a fully grown robot woman that you can, you know, change what she looks like and stuff like that, and they could ship
right,
it to your house, and she's an AI companion. But
right. Yeah,
I
I
hopefully
know.
everyone will have the mindset you do, but the future is now, and we're going to have to probably start using, these AIs as part of our civilization sooner or later, because that's where I think
Right.
the world's
Well, it's already
turning.
Yeah, it's already behind a lot of stuff. A
Yeah.
lot more than you would think.
it it is. It is.
And things like
Yeah.
just again, I have some friends that build and run apps and do things on the back end with APIs. So your refrigerator tells you you're out of milk, or you're going to the store. You're at the store. You can talk to your refrigerator at home. Say, what do I need? Well, half of this is here. Oh, you're gonna make this? Okay. Well, you need this, and these 4 ingredients are missing from your refrigerator. So you want to add that stuff is good, but it gets to a point where how much does it know?
You're going to get a message.
What'd you say?
You will get a message. No, I'm sorry for interrupting. You're going to get a message. You're running low on rocks. Pick up a bag of rocks.
You're running low on rocks, or but yeah, that, or you need to get the house vacuum. You could do that from home, where your little robot vacuum takes off the, so that's all AI technically. Could you bring that home, that partner home, to introduce to your parents? There's a movie about that with
Imagine coming out of the closet for that.
I know. I don't know. I mean,
oh yeah, Lars and the Real Girl.
Yeah, Lars and the Real Girl, and then you got
Lars
Her,
and the Real Girl,
which is really just a computer that was talking to Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
I think it was Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, Her. That was a great movie.
That was pretty good.
He fell in love with
think about it. Somebody, you can get caught up in that. It's so crazy for some people. Anyway, I don't want to keep. I know we have things we don't get doing, so I want to get over to Martin, because he's got opera and pop culture, the Alabama song to tell us about.
Culture. This sort of it's a recurring topic that I revisit from time to time. It came up accidentally. I think Ron was doing a list of top 100 songs of all time from the Billboard charts, and in the top 10 was Bobby Darin singing the Ballad of Mac the Knife, which I was astonished that made. It was a very popular song that made the top 10 of all things. But that song harkens back to a German ballad opera, the Three Penny Opera, and that's how I learned the song. And my mom grew up with Bobby Darin singing the song, and same music, slightly different lyrics, but worlds apart at the end of the day. And it got me thinking to all the ways that opera sort of is influencing our pop culture that we're just not aware of, because most people either don't like opera, they're just indifferent to it. They didn't grow up with it. I happen to like it, so I came at it from the world of music and theater, and I enjoy it on its own terms. But I do get a kick out of seeing where it's pervading our everyday or everyday pop life. So another example of this, Ballad of Mac the Knife was written. The composer was Kurt Weill, and the lyricist was Bertolt Brecht, who was a playwright and stage director in his own right. I love Kurt Weill's music a whole lot. I enjoy Brecht's theater, and so I thought of another one of their collaborations that has very firmly been in place in the world of rock music from the 60s and 70s. So, and this is the Alabama song, or Whiskey Bar, by the Doors. They recorded this in 1966 for an album that was released early in 67. But that song is from their opera, The Rise and the Fall of the City of Mahagony. It's an opera written originally the whole opera is written in German, but they translated the Alabama song into English for the opera. I don't know why. I keep reminding myself to find out why did they just pick that one song. But it's sort of like in the context of the opera, they were singing a folk song, an homage to the Americas in the folk song. So I won many a bar bet in college, for people saying, I know that there's some opera that you've listened to and like. No way, man. No way, no man. And I knew they were Doors fans, and I knew they've had the album. They listened to it. And I tell them about the Alabama song, Whiskey Bar. And they would go, and then they still wouldn't believe me. And then I played them the original German, and then they would pay me the money and hate me for the rest of it. No, I'm kidding. But I enjoyed the Doors. I grew up with the Doors. They were a great rock band. They were intense. They were poetic. And they drew on other musical traditions, sometimes jazz, sometimes even classical. And for whatever reasons, they were drawn to this particular song. And, it sort of speaks to what the dark side of rock culture was then, sort of the excesses of it. But the original opera, The Rise and Fall of the City of Mahagony, is about a bunch of criminals. They're in the United States. Okay. They robbed a bank and they're on the lam running away from the police. their car breaks down, and they decide, well, let's stop running from the police. Let's build our own city here, and we'll make things like gambling and boxing and drinking and prostitution, all these vices that we keep getting in trouble with, we'll make them legal. Basically, they created Las Vegas before before there was Las Vegas, and it's in North Carolina, and the city is called Mahagoni, and they build the city, and then they draw all these people, sad people, criminal people, who come for the gambling, the prostitution, boxing, all sorts of other vices. And the Alabama song is sung by a group of prostitutes and that's sort of their anthem. And they come to Mahagoni to set up shop, and they begin by singing that song. The Doors recorded it, and it was a very popular song with them. David Bowie recorded it 10 or 15 years later and was going on tour with it. David Bowie was an enthusiast of Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill's music. So if you haven't been to the opera, if you don't like it or you don't know anything about it, know that if you like rock music and you like the Doors, you will have a taste of 20th century German opera for you right there in Whiskey Bar.
Cool.
All right. I did not know that. That sounds cool. I love the opera. Do you guys like ballet too? Do you like
Love
ballet?
I love
ballet.
ballet, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I do.
Yeah.
I don't go and
Ballet
see
is so
ballet,
cool.
but when I was a kid, I was a gymnast, so I loved it. Yeah. Yep.
What ballets do we like here? What are some of our?
Well, I've only been to recently my partner, her mother took us to, obviously it was Christmas, so we went to see the Nutcracker. But
Wonderful.
now I plan to start going a lot more. I want to go to the opera, but I've never really been to the opera, but I just know that I like it. So I'm interested, wondering if you have any, things to let me know about, because I've always liked the opera, but I've never gone. So
Never gone.
I don't know.
Two or three quick things about opera. It can be very expensive, but it can also be inexpensive, because typically opera houses are in big theaters, and so they have a bunch of seats that are out of affordable price too, and sometimes standing room. So you could probably, for slightly more than a movie ticket, maybe get some seats. You'll be up high, but you'll hear everything. Opera 101. If you've not been and you're thinking, what should I go see? I always say Carmen is a good introduction. Yeah, music is wonderful. You might be familiar with it. That'll be another installment of opera and pop culture. Carmen pops up all the time. It's great music, very passionate story, very sensual, very all the full emotional range. So it's an easy intro into the art form. But if you live in or near New York, every Christmas, the Metropolitan Opera breaks out at the holiday times, at Christmas, production of Mozart's The Magic Flute, directed and designed by Julie Taymor. She is an outstanding stage director, choreographer, and puppeteer and mask builder. If you don't know the name, she is responsible for Disney's Lion King, the Broadway adaptation of The Lion King. But she is a MacArthur Genius Grant winner, one of the best stage directors in America, and an international star of renown. Her production of The Magic Flute, which is performed in English, is magnificent. So that is also a good entry into opera, because Mozart's music, can't go wrong, but it is a fantasy story, and the visuals are incredible, absolutely breathtaking. And so everyone goes away just happy.
Becky,
All right.
Becky
Well,
mentioned,
thank you. Look at
just a couple comments Becky had made about, has anyone seen Shen Yun? I didn't actually know of that, but I guess Ron wants to see it. So
that
somebody,
reminds me. Yeah, I'm in Seattle, so we have a big opera house here, and that plays here in the springtime, I believe. Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yep. And then Becky said she's going to a symphony concert on Friday, which is the music of Queen, which, I mean, Queen, that's kind of one of the first, or one of the most obvious rock opera bands you would think of, besides Yes, I think, maybe. But yeah.
Oh, God, yes. They're awesome.
Those symphony concerts are cool. I've been to those symphony concerts, Becky, if it's the one that I'm thinking, or maybe not, but those symphony concerts are cool. So that sounds like a great time.
So
yeah,
so some stuff. And Ron is lauding you for being such a cultural individual, and talking
Yeah,
about your passion for these
I'm cultured
topics.
like yogurt.
But yeah,
Thank you.
so we're gonna run over here and talk to Lily about the origination of chopsticks. Do you have that now?
Yeah, so chopsticks predate spoons. Knives were the first utensil because it's a knife and people, had to like cut stuff up and use it as a weapon. But chopsticks originally were for picking things out of pots when they were
Oh,
cooking
yep.
and stuff. And then people decided, hey, you know what? We can use these as utensils. Obviously, they were used in Asian cultures. And then ultimately, they went to utensils and they predate spoons. And they've been around for about 5,000 years. And
Wow, I didn't know that, but yeah.
Confucius, and the reason why they stuck with chopsticks is because they're a lot more, like, they're not sharp or as violent as
Oh, yep.
forks or
Okay.
spoons, or so people, because of Confucius and the teachings of Confucius, they decided to keep with chopsticks. So yeah, so that's my whole
I'm like
thing on
Ron, I can't.
chopsticks.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ron's saying he can't do chopsticks
You
unless he
guys,
stabs with it.
who
I
can
can't.
eat with
Yeah,
chopsticks?
I can't. I'm terrible at it.
Oh,
I'll be honest.
I'm getting
okay.
better. I'm getting better, but it's with good. Having good
Yes.
chopsticks helps.
Yes.
Actually, the little and my daughter uses them. Whenever the occasion calls for it, and so I can try and like, okay, follow suit, and with a good pair, it gets easier. So, and with a something that throwaway that you get from a takeout restaurant, yeah, that you're fighting a little bit more. But what I find fascinating is when you talk about how they predate the spoon, the things that we use, they weren't inevitable and they weren't always ubiquitous, and you forget that unless you look at things in historical context, that there were things beforehand. And God knows what other utensils we may have come up with, and it maybe we did, and then they just weren't as good, and we threw them away. But all the things that we are accustomed with, they're not, that's great. But there's other things. There may have been other things, and there may be other things yet to discover. But nothing is inevitable. The same thing with musical instruments. When we think of whether in a rock band or symphony orchestra, there are these finite instruments, but you look back in history a little bit and realize that there were probably 15 different types of trumpets, and 4 or 5 different types of clarinets, and guitar. The guitar is now the instrument of the culture, right? But historically, whether you're looking at theorem bows or lutes or mandolins, there's so many variations, and people are still learning to play them, and they make a wonderful sound. So it's just the guitar wasn't inevitable, and I love when we can key into something unique, and give utility in life to that. Chopsticks,
Yeah, it's
same
just
way.
crazy. Like, someone thought, like, they used it to pick up, and then someone else thought, and no one knows where they originate. Like, no one knows, like there's not a name like the Sammys, but someone thought instead of stabbing
Right.
something,
There's no
we're
patent.
going to use two things to pick up and put it in our mouth for consumption. And a lot of people can't do that. And I don't know, it was kind of cool when I was looking at my recipes and stuff, and I started to look at utensils and what was the oldest utensil, which was a knife. But yeah, chopsticks. It was just,
that's pretty cool,
interesting to dive into that. So anyway, that's what I got.
Yeah, and I'm terrible at it. I honestly, I'm just like, just give me a fork. We need food sponsors. Yeah, we do.
I see it as a challenge. I see it as
or
a
a
challenge
spoon,
when I have a chopstick.
Yeah, I'm terrible. So I'm gonna be a technology person today and talk about some technology in psychology, which we did in the last little segment I came up with. But it's called. Let me give you what the name. What's the name of my segment here? Intermittent. Wait a minute. Hold on one second. I have everything like together, but not. So it's occasional reward. That's what I want to call it. But anyway, there's something called ludic loop, which probably Martin knows about. You
I
don't?
don't, but I'm
Okay.
intrigued by the name. Ludic
Ludic
Loop?
loop is
No.
it's more of it's a technology thing, but it started the term ludic comes from the Latin ludus meaning game or play. And ludic loop
Okay.
started or was discovered and used to its potential in casinos, which means you go to a casino, you sit down, and casinos have something called like an intermittent reward, which means if you sit down, you pull the lever. The first reason that you're pulling the lever is to get the money. But eventually, the pulling of the lever
Yeah.
becomes the dopamine hit that your brain.
Oh,
So it
yeah,
almost
yeah.
doesn't matter anymore if you
Okay.
get paid out or not, but you get paid out just enough to keep pulling the lever. And this is something your brain
Mhm.
actually kind of puts you into this little cage where you're like, well, I don't. The next one's going to be the right one. The next. So this is like an actual psychological thing that you can do to somebody's brain. So, ludic loop is like anything that you use, especially with this is something I'm getting into this because it's something I know and I study a lot, especially with dating sites. Anybody who's into in a dating site understands this. The swiping becomes the people behind the swiping becomes almost irrelevant, and the swiping itself becomes the
Yeah,
thing that
yeah.
you become addicted to.
The
If you're
reward.
on Facebook, if you're on most sites, they've actually made it so that you pull down on the screen, just like they literally pull that from a casino. So when you pull down from the screen, you get a new screen, you get a new feed, you get new stuff. So people start becoming
Yeah.
addicted to pulling down the screen. And then what happens is it does cause some, I would say, it's an addictive quality that a lot of social media has decided to put in. I mean, there's a documentary about it. I think it started off with Facebook where the feed and the algorithm, it knows what you want, it knows what you like, it tries to give you things that it thinks you like, it takes things out that you don't like. But most people get caught into that loop of it almost doesn't matter what the content is, it almost doesn't matter what the site is that they're using. And at the end of the day, it creates almost like a dependency, but also it creates like a mood killer. It causes people to be a little depressed or despondent. It puts people in like a stasis of you're sitting down and you're just flipping, like the doom scrolling thing comes from ludic loop. So it's just kind of an interesting thing. I think that they started off before they got it into casinos, which is God knows when. I mean, this is forever ago, right? But in the 1930s, B.F. Skinner has an operant conditioning where he placed rats and sometimes pigeons in a box with a lever. And when the animal pressed the lever, it sometimes got food, but sometimes did not. And the intermittent effect causes that animal to keep hitting the lever to try to get the food, even when the food doesn't come, because the reinforcement is intermittent, but it clicks your brain in, right? If you get a fixed ratio where every time you press you get a reward, I can't remember what the deal is with that, but that actually has eventually a negative response. But the variables of when you get the reward or not enforce the behavior. So if we move this into relationships, and you say meet somebody and the first 6 months is great, or the first 3 months is great, which is the honeymoon period, and you're dealing with somebody that's not necessarily healthy, whether they're toxic or they're just dysfunctional or whatever, and that person kind of brings you in. And I don't know that a lot of people do this kind of thing on purpose, but it's very kind of common in relationships where everything's great. It's like, the best person you've ever met. It's like your soulmate. And then 3 months in, they start becoming inconsistent. And they kind of are nice every so often, but not enough for you to leave, but not like, in other words, so that there's that little period of, well, if I stay, it can get better because I know it can, because I've seen it be good. But it's not bad enough, long enough for you to say, I don't need this. So you kind of, so that's just something to think about when you see people go through an inconsistent period. Like maybe you have a friend that goes through a bad relationship and they come and they tell you about it. And you're like, why would you put up with this? I don't understand. Because every so often they have a nice weekend and every so often they have a nice day where everything falls into place. And I think, I don't believe people do it on purpose, but it's just enough that that person says, oh, see, this person can be good. I can get rewarded for this. this person, and they'll hang on that and they'll tell you. Well, the other day we went to a casino together. Speaking of casinos, or we went on a trip, or we went somewhere, went out to dinner, and it was perfect and everything was great. And they'll use that, as the defense mechanism of you telling them they need to leave. So I'm just saying, it's kind of an interesting thing, but a lot of technology companies have grabbed onto it and used it to get as much time out of somebody. And dating sites, when you think about it, the whole reason I get into it from dating sites is because you want to know, why are you here? Is it worth it for you? What are they getting out of it? I mean, that's a business for them, right? If you walk
Okay.
into, if you walk into the building of Match.com, I'm going to use them because they're the ones that own everything. It's the same. You walk into it, the building, and you're kind of going down the hall, and you're looking for different offices. All of them are under one roof. So you have to say to yourself, okay, well, if I pick this dating site over that dating site, but they're both owned by the same company, what am I getting out of this? Right? Here you're paying for it. Here you're not. Maybe here has this type of a theme. This one doesn't. What are they getting? So basically, they just want to corner the market, but they don't want you to leave, because if you leave, so do they want you to meet somebody? Anyway, that's how I started studying dating sites and things like that, because I thought it was pretty
interesting.
So we Ron's asking us for a surprise. Ron's top 5. Is he going to give us one? Maybe he'll give us one.
No, I think maybe for a subsequent show.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it's going to be Ron's top 5 dating
Oh,
sites.
there he is.
Oh,
A
hello,
pop-up.
Ron. Ron's coming.
Right.
Yeah, no, I was like doing this this morning. I was trying to get prepared for tomorrow, and I came across a birthday. Aaron Spelling,
Oh,
the producer.
Yep.
isn't he dead?
Okay.
Oh, I don't know if he's dead. I just know it's his birthday today.
Oh, well, he's
think he
dead.
is.
I don't think you have birth dates anymore if you're dead.
Well, it still is. It still is. I know you can't.
For us
put that
earthlings?
down a little, so
They
that
do
way
the
media is
would-be,
not right
don't
across
they?
my face.
This person would be this old. I think they do that.
Yeah,
sometimes.
but I just thought it was interesting because he's done so much, and I didn't realize how much he's actually done until I saw the list of everything.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I figured, all right, there's a little bit of time left that I can give you guys a top 5. And I know everybody loves these so much.
See, I told you. I know, Becky. He's dead.
Sure.
That's what I just said.
Becky said
Yes,
he's
he's
dead.
dead, but it's still his birthday. I don't care.
Oh my goodness.
But look,
Oh
this
my
guy has been a big part, especially back in the 80s, a big part of TV and also some movies. So he is he's the producer of Family, Hotel, Heartbeat, The Rookies, Melrose Place, Dynasty, Beverly Hills
Oh, I didn't know about
90210.
Dynasty.
Yep.
So he's done a lot. Heart to Heart.
Yep.
Remember that?
Oh, that's old.
Right.
I was a kid.
The Love Boat.
Love Boat.
Yeah.
Oh, Love Boat.
That's a lot of his
So
old
he's
stuff.
done-
Absolutely.
That's Toe Down
He's
More.
done a lot of things. So I thought it would be pretty neat to do a top 5 of him. So my
Fascinating.
honorable mentions would be the Mod Squad. I used to watch that religiously back in the day.
Did you?
Religiously. It was only on for a couple of years, but I watched all of it, right? And also TJ Hooker. Who doesn't like TJ Hooker?
TJ
You know,
Hooker.
William Shatner.
I used to.
Yeah.
that
it's
was
an old
a
William
yeah,
Shatner
yep.
show.
And Heather Locklear.
Yes, and Adrian
Wasn't that-
Zmed. Remember him?
I do.
No.
Oh yeah.
He was like
Adrian Zmed
the
was in
guy
Grease, too.
on Full House.
He was in Grease, too.
He looked just like him. It was like a
Yeah, he
carbon
looked like
copy of him.
Kind of like Stamos or Danza.
Yeah, Stamos.
But
yeah.
he was in Grease too. He was, the whatever the Danny Zuko would be for Grease too. And I
Yes,
think he
yeah.
he did
Terrible.
some.
Wait. Wasn't he in Empire Records? Is that who you guys are talking
I don't
to?
think-
Talking
I
about? What's
don't-
his? Yeah, he's Australian.
No.
I didn't know.
That's the main character in Grease too. That's Adrian
Yeah.
Zmed's the one that was
What-
just
which
sort of
one?
like the guy with the leather
Okay, now I'm
jacket that
totally
was just
confused.
had
Yeah,
the
he wasn't
attitude.
important though.
he was the
Oh,
one that
okay.
Michelle Pfeiffer was supposed to be involved with, but she lost interest in. And
But she ended up
Yes,
going with the other
so
guy, and I
that's
forget
Adrian
his
Smith.
name. Sorry,
Anyway.
sorry,
All
guys.
right.
Went down a
Okay.
So
rabbit
my
hole.
last one and my last honorable mention
Yeah.
is Satisfaction. And I brought this up before with and Kenny was upset that I had it above stuff.
Julia Roberts.
You know, because it was
Julia
Justine
Roberts,
Bateman,
right?
and that was Julia Roberts' first movie, right?
Movie.
Right.
Ah, I
And
don't
then
know
Mystic
that.
and then Mystic Pizza.
Yes. Yes. So
Yep.
Satisfaction had Justine Bateman from Family Ties, you know, Mallory.
Yep.
And
They
I
did.
just
Mhm.
like I loved the soundtrack of that movie, to be honest with you. The soundtrack was awesome. And that was really the key for me. It was the music in that movie. But my top 5, number 5 is Fantasy Island. Who didn't love that?
Welcome to Fantasy Island.
Hello,
Ri-
boss.
Rich
Man.
Caribbean leather. No, that was Ricardo Montalban.
You know,
Yes.
like
Yep. No, that,
I
yeah,
know.
no, that's
Yeah,
the man.
but he wasn't
Tattoo
saying
was
that in the
great.
show.
I loved
That's
them.
the guy.
The plane. Yeah.
Number 4, and for obvious reasons for me, Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
Like, come
Oh,
on,
I mean, they
it's
all
Farrah
have, like-
Fawcett.
Yeah.
Come on, Kate Smith and Jacqueline Smith.
Kate Jackson.
Smith.
Jacqueline Smith.
Yep.
Kate Jackson, yes.
Kate Jackson.
Yes.
I mean, that's an obvious
Not
Tom
reason.
Kate Smith.
Bosley.
Kate-
Guys, I guess,
Tom
like that show.
Bosley. Tom Bosley. I'm sorry. I had to stop.
No. The character was Bosley, but it was the actor was David Doyle, who looks a lot like
Oh, okay.
Bosley.
Yeah.
There. But Bosley. And this is from someone who didn't watch the show.
That was
Yeah,
his
yeah,
voice.
that's pretty convincing.
Right.
I'm sure you didn't watch the show.
I didn't. Oh my God, I didn't. In fact, let me a full confession here. I saw my first episode a couple of weeks ago. Amazon Prime is running it, and I saw the first episode of Charlie's Angels right just a couple of weeks ago, and I was giggling. I mean, it's a great period piece. I enjoyed it because it's so dated. But yeah, as a kid, I honest to God, I didn't watch
I
it.
love
I don't know if
shows
that's
like
a
that,
point of
though, 'cause,
pride
like,
or a point
there
of
wasn't-
shame.
Did it age
Yeah,
well?
I like that though. I
Martin, do you think it aged well?
probably didn't. I don't think it did.
No, it didn't. But it didn't unless you look at it through the lens of kitsch and
Right.
nostalgia. And
Yeah.
if you can't, and can you believe her? But no, it did not.
It did not age well.
No,
Yep.
Yeah.
no, it definitely didn't. And I believe
No,
the
but
acting
you know what?
ability was not there.
Shout out. Yeah, a little shout out in that
Mm.
to an extent, the idea was it took these women who were police officers who were all right, they're the first officers and they're the first women officers, that first generation, and they were going nowhere. And so this interesting character, a mysterious character, Charlie, gave them some agency beyond them being attractive women. But yet the show still
Exactly. I
exploits
was just gonna say.
that very thing.
Yeah.
But hats off for giving the women agency to be, strong, smart, and 3 steps ahead of the bad guys and in control of their own sexual agency. In a way, it was kind of groundbreaking, even if it didn't hit every note
Right.
correctly.
No, it
That's my
was.
sense from
It
watching
was.
it a couple
It
of
was
weeks
way
ago.
ahead of its time, as far as
Way
that,
ahead of its time.
that
Yeah.
type of show. I mean, there wasn't really anything like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't see anything like that. I mean,
Not that time.
it was eye candy, really.
Well,
Well, yeah, exploiting
but
women's
that's
beauty.
the male
yes.
viewership they were. You got to think
Duh.
about back then. They were looking for
That's
demographics.
what they
and
wanted. They
That pulled in
succeeded.
male
Absolutely.
viewership. So.
Yeah. All right. So number 3
Mhm.
was Loose Cannons, the movie. Dan Aykroyd with Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to see
You
that.
haven't
I
seen
have not
that?
seen that.
Never heard of it.
Look, I have not seen it. I don't even know if I remember
Wow.
it, but if it's got Dan Aykroyd and Gene Hackman,
Wow.
now,
I'm
I
stunned.
think I know what I'm going to be
Stunned.
doing
Yep.
tonight. I am
Good
too.
movie.
I am too.
It's
Wow.
not going to win an Oscar, but
Okay.
it's entertaining. Number
All right.
2, I have Starsky and Hutch. I used to
Oh,
love that show.
yeah.
Not the movie. The movie
Not
was
the-
awful.
yeah.
Right.
The movie was awful. You cannot turn that to a comedy. No, no.
Yeah.
Hated it.
Starsky and Hutch.
You know,
Wasn't really my
but the
thing, but yeah.
TV show, I used to love that show with Paul Michael Glazier, and of
Yeah.
course David
Yeah,
Soul.
David Soul.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
These
those were the
guys
cool
were
cuts back then.
heartthrobs on teenage
Yes.
women's walls. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David Soul was pretty awesome. I was a big Hutch fan when I was a kid. You know,
Okay.
Is that when
All
he
right.
sang "Don't Give Up on Us, Baby"? Is that when that song came out?
Oh my God, yes!
Because he sang that. I'm a DJ, so I have a really, really weird
Yes.
bunch of music in my head, and in the '70s he did that. And the only thing I ever remember him being in was Salem's Lot.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh my God, Salem's
That was,
Lot.
first
that
one.
was intense.
It was.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Intense.
That was my favorite Stephen King
Yeah.
novel for
Yeah.
Mine too.
years. And when that TV show came out, I was enthralled to
Yeah.
it.
I have the
enthralled to it.
original
Oh my God.
hardcover binding. I have the old red and black binder, Salem's Lot. But anyway, yeah.
Wow.
I'm with you, Becky. I like that movie too.
Yeah, no,
I didn't-
I
can't-
did like that
can't do it.
remake.
Can't do it. As soon as I realized it was a comedy, off.
Off.
They made a mockery out of it. It was not right.
Yeah.
Number one though, and it's by a landslide, Mr. Mom,
I love
the
Mr.
movie. Oh my God, I
Ah.
love that movie.
There's so
that
many
with,
lines I
Michael
still use
Keaton?
from that. Yeah, that was an early Michael Keaton. It was
That's an early
around the
Michael
time of
Keaton
Night
movie.
Shift, right? Because he did
Yeah.
Night Shift too, but it was right around that
Yeah.
time.
No,
And
it was right-
Gung Ho.
Yeah, it was right after it, I
Yeah,
believe.
maybe a little
I
after.
think the
Oh,
other
yeah.
Gung Ho
was
was
the
the
next
con-
one.
Was Gung Ho? Yeah.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that was Aaron
Yeah.
Yeah,
Spelling.
that's
behind
why I
that.
said
Look
I
at
looked
that.
at the list and I'm like, oh my God, there's a lot of.
Oh,
stuff
I
here.
totally forgot we were still on
Interesting.
Aaron Spelling.
Yeah,
Right. This is all
Yeah.
Aaron
All these-
Spelling's productions,
wow.
right?
I have to say Martin Mull and Terry Garr, both amazing people, and may they rest in peace. Terry Garr
Oh,
actually.
Terry Garr is
They were
great.
Had-
brilliant.
yeah.
Terry Garr was
Terry
great.
Garr had MS, and I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
I didn't
found
know
out
that.
Yeah.
that was something I found out from Jamie Lynn Sigler and Christina Applegate, because they
Mm.
both have it, and they went into a thing about they knew she had it, and she kind of just left the
Mm.
public eye at that point. But it was, I think, somebody who was producing Terry Garr that saw her symptoms, and I think who stepped forward and like asked Christina Applegate at some point, was this something was happening to her, because they had dealt with
Oh.
Terry Garr. Anyway, yeah, I loved her, and it was sad to see her
Me
go.
too. You know, Ron, a nice top
Yeah.
5 for in a subsequent episode. Top 5 Terry
Yeah.
Garr
I think I did
projects.
that already.
You could do Terry Garr movie.
Yeah.
Maybe we
I
did
did.
that. Maybe top 5 Terry Garr
Did
guest
we do that
appearances
already?
on
Did you
TV
do that already?
Terry
shows.
Garr was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh
She
yeah.
was
Oh.
fantastic. She was so funny, and she's done a lot of great things.
Yeah, She
A
did.
lot.
Just
Yeah, I
really
did-
quick, guys. I'm so sorry.
No,
we
go ahead.
were on
No.
the topic of Aaron Spelling and these shows that he created, but I found
Yeah.
out that Lucille Ball,
Mhm.
after
Yeah.
she bought out Desi of the production
Mm.
company they owned,
Yep.
Desi Lu,
she
yeah.
actually helped fund and create Star Trek and Mission Impossible. I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just
If it wasn't, if no Lucille Ball, no
Yeah.
Star
Yeah,
Trek.
a
and
woman?
you
Yeah.
you start thinking about these things, how smart of a business person she was. I
Yeah.
mean, she was
Oh, God, yeah.
relevant her whole career, like her whole life.
But think about how she
was
had to get to
relevant.
that point, right? What had to
Yeah.
happen for her to get to that
Yeah.
point where she was just like, that's it. Especially dealing with Desi.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was just fascinating. I
Mhm.
didn't know that she ended
Yeah.
up funding or producing those movies. So yeah, Lucille Ball, Terry Garr, Aaron Spelling. So I just wanted to drop that in there.
I
I
gotta
didn't know.
put.
So
I
that was
There was
gotta
a-
give.
there was a-
Yes, I'm sorry. I gotta
No,
give
go ahead.
Lucille Ball credit real quick for talking to Cher and getting her on track, because there was a point in time where Cher was dealing with Sonny and had nothing. And,
I did not
it
know
wasn't.
that.
She wasn't the only one. David Geffen was also involved, but Lucille Ball sat her down and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Because she dealt with Desi for so long and made Cher kind of what she is, which is kind of cool.
I mean, when you
Continue.
think about, Lucy was probably the first, I want to say the first big time, comedic star for women.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't recall really anybody that was that huge before
time.
her when it comes to comedy.
Yeah.
She was the pioneer.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were people who had greatness, but she went the first one to go to that next level.
She did.
Hands down. And then sustain it for years after her.
And not
peak.
just that, but become a businesswoman and transform her career into a businesswoman. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, it was cool that I learned that.
And
it's
so many people that she inspired, and so that's cool. I think Mary Tyler Moore was one of them too.
In that time.
Oh God, yeah. It's crazy, but I love it. I think Dolly Parton. I think the same way about Dolly Parton.
Oh, Dolly Parton too. Yeah. Dolly Parton. Cher. Yeah. Awesome. It's just really empowering.
Marie Curie. They're all
Marie Curie.
We're all
I laugh because there's
off
this running joke
because
about
of
somebody
women.
talking about Marie Curie or Mariah Carey and getting them confused. And then at one point, Mariah Carey tweeting and going, well, I guess, because somebody kept referring to her. So she's like, yeah, me too, kind of thing. But it was just funny because somebody's trying to be smart and talk about Marie Curie, but they said Mariah Carey.
Right, Carey.
But yeah.
All right. I'll let you guys close up the show. I'm out.
No. Why don't you close it up, Ron? You're here.
Wow, Ron, you close it out. You're here.
No, you guys got it.
Bye. Oh boy. Well,
Ron, he's gone. He's gone.
All right. Well, if I'm closing up the show, because I don't know what I need to do to close it. I'm new at this. Bear with me.
Well, tomorrow.
So,
you're doing great.
I do have tomorrow would be Ron and Kenny, which is always a fun show because the two of them will go back and forth. But and then follow us, subscribe to us. Tune in tomorrow at 10. What else do I need to say, Martin? You're the one who's been around longer than me.
I know, and I haven't hosted before, but yeah, you can follow us at Rhode Island Broadcasting on YouTube, at RI Broadcasting on Facebook, at RI /underline broadcasting underscore on that.
And we get this Twitch, right? And then we get the
Twitch,
the stars
Twitch,
on Facebook, and whatever the the equivalent of stars are on Twitch, which I can never remember.
Yeah. And listen, whatever you listen, if you liked it, say so, comment, and
give us a like, a share. Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Well, so much fun meeting you. You folks.
It was a great day.
I look forward to another.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.